evening and welcome to Just the News. I'm Faye D'Souza. Thank you for joining us. We have some very interesting stories to work through today, so we're going to break it up into chunks. There is, of course, the question of the government's plan to monetize assets and the opposition's challenge, and we'll tell you what that plan is specifically. We'll also take you through the update of what's going on in Afghanistan and why a union minister in Maharashtra has been arrested for a statement he made against the chief minister. Getting straight first to the most important story of all, and that's the monetization story. Yesterday, the finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, unveiled a 4-year plan that the government has made called the National Monetization Pipeline. This would generate, according to the finance minister, 6 lakh crore rupees in revenue for the government by, and I'm quoting here, unlocking value in brownfield projects by engaging the private sector, transferring to them revenue rights, not ownership, and using the funds generated for infrastructure creation across the country. Now, what this means is basically the government will sell the rights to highways, bridges, godowns, airports owned by the government, built by the government using taxpayer money, to private entities. They will be given the right to create revenue out of these assets, but not own these assets. After a period of lease, that asset will go back to the government. The money will be used to build more infrastructure for the government. Now, here brownfield is important because a greenfield project is where you get a green field and then you build on it. There's nothing there. A brownfield project is a project that's already been built. And this is important because we've heard of the government in the past do greenfield projects with the private sector where they give the private sector the right to build some infrastructure and then share the revenue. Here we're talking about the government having already built the infrastructure using taxpayer money, but now giving the private sector the right to generate revenue with a one-time payment. So that's what it actually means. Now, this plan has been announced early and the list of assets has been displayed so that potential investors will have time to generate interest in these assets. The government has also stressed that because these are brownfield projects, there's no risk of your execution getting stuck because of land issues or any other issue where basically you want to build an airport but you're not able to because you don't have the permissions or somebody is actually protesting against it. Now, the finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, said, and I quote, "There is no land here. This is entirely brownfield projects where investments have already been made, where there is a completed asset which is either languishing or not fully monetized or underutilized. So by bringing in private participation, you will be able to monetize it better and ensure the investment in infrastructure building." End quote. Now, it's interesting to note what assets are up really for sale at this point. The assets include 26,000 kilometers of roads, railway stations, train operations and tracks, 28,000 kilometers of circuit kilometers worth of power transmission lines, 6 gigawatt hydroelectricity power, solar power assets, towers from the telecom sector, about 14,000 of them, 8,000 kilometers worth of natural gas pipelines, 3,000 kilometers worth of petroleum pipelines, and I'm rounding off those figures, they're a little more detailed, railway stations, airports, 160 coal mining projects in 9 major ports, and 210 lakh metric tons of warehousing assets where government stores food and grains. Now, there are challenges to this plan, which has already been pointed out. One is valuation, how you will arrive at that, arrive at the price at which you are going to do this auction. 2, proof of revenue streams, which the private sector will ask, how can you generate money from this? And complex ownership structures, because some of it is owned by state, some of it is owned by center, some of it is owned jointly. And of course, the challenge is being thrown by the opposition. Now, today, Rahul Gandhi, along with former finance minister P. Chidambaram, held a press conference in which they basically said that the government is selling assets that were created by the country over the last 70 years. They also went on to say that the government's privatization plan is aimed at creating monopolies, and basically it is going to sell these assets to their friendly companies, the few handful of companies that the government is close to, and that it will kill jobs in the long run. Rahul Gandhi accused the government of wanting to concentrate the power in the hands of a few friendly business houses. A couple of things we need to note at this point. One, it's only when the auction process starts will we know whether or not these assets are going to friendlies, for example, as the accusation is. But the insinuation at that press conference sort of mentioned airports. So I'm assuming that Rahul Gandhi was insinuating at Adani. Remember, Adani got into the airports business about 2 years ago and already controls most of the airports in this country. 1 out of every 4 airline passengers in this country walks through an Adani airport. So that's the kind of control we're talking about. But really, the questions of whether or not this is the right thing to do in order to generate money over the next 4 years will lie in the details of this auction plan. It will depend on whether or not the manner in which these auctions are done will create monopolies in these sectors, whether many government servants are going to lose their jobs, or will this become more efficient? Will this actually put infrastructure to good use? Will this generate revenue for the government that can be used for the right things? Will ensure that less and less public sector tax money, so your and my tax money, is being drained by inefficient assets by basically privatizing them and making them more useful. These are questions that will come out of the fine print of that auction. So now you know what the monetization plan is. Of course, for the opposition's sake, monetization sounds a lot like demonetization, so that's something they played on as well. In the other big story breaking across the country today, Union Minister Narayan Rane has been arrested in Maharashtra for a statement he made about Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray. This makes Narayan Rane the first sitting cabinet minister of the union government to be arrested in 20 years. Narayan Rane made a statement that Uddhav Thackeray had forgotten the year in which India won independence during his 15th August speech, and he basically said, had I been there, I would have given him a tight slap. End quote. Now, there was an FIR filed against Mr. Rane under IPC sections defamation, mischief, remarks likely to cause disharmony, enmity and ill will. His lawyers approached the Bombay High Court for an urgent hearing against action that could be taken against him, but the Bombay High Court rejected his request for the urgent hearing. He was then arrested in Maharashtra by the Maharashtra police. Former Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, said he did not support Narayan Rane's comments, but he compared the police action to the Taliban. In the meantime, today, the Shiv Sena, which is the party that Mr. Thackeray belongs to, has actually pelted stones at the BJP office in Nasik and also resorted to clashes on the streets with BJP supporters. Now, on to an update from what's happening in Afghanistan at this point. The WHO has warned that medical supplies in the last 1 week are not adequately reaching the people of Afghanistan because of the problems at Kabul airport. Ahmed Al-Mandhari, who is the head of the WHO's Eastern Mediterranean region, said, and I quote, yesterday 70% of these supplies were released to health facilities. He said 500 metric tons of medicines and supplies stored in Dubai were unable to be delivered because of chaotic evacuation efforts that are currently taking place at Kabul airport, which does not have the capacity to receive commercial flights at this point. WHO on Sunday said even prior to events of the past few weeks, Afghanistan represented the world's third largest humanitarian crisis, with over 18 million people requiring assistance. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke today with Russian President Vladimir Putin on the phone to discuss the evolving situation in Afghanistan. ANI said the conversation lasted 45 minutes. The Prime Minister himself tweeted, and I quote, had a detailed and useful exchange of views with my friend, President Putin, on the recent developments in Afghanistan. We also discussed issues on bilateral agenda, including India-Russia cooperation against COVID-19, and we agreed to continue close consultation on important issues, end tweet. According to Reuters, Western forces in Kabul airport have been working around the clock to get people out of Afghanistan. The United States pull-out deadline, remember, is the 31st of August. One NATO diplomat told Reuters that countries altogether so far have evacuated 58,700 people in the last 10 days, trying to meet that deadline agreed with the Taliban to withdraw foreign forces. Meanwhile, the Taliban has said that any delay in the withdrawal of US troops will have consequences for the United States. This comes after President Joe Biden had said his troops could stay in Kabul after that deadline to continue to help evacuate civilians. Taliban spokesperson told Sky News, and I quote, "If the US or the UK were to seek additional time to continue evacuations, the answer is no. There would be consequences," end quote. Taking a look at other news coming in right now. A man selling bangles in Madhya Pradesh's Indore was mercilessly beaten up in full public view by a group of men because he had allegedly given a fake name to hide his identity. The 25-year-old was also allegedly robbed of 10,000 rupees by his assailants during the incident which took place on Sunday. This is according to a report in NDTV. The state Home Minister Narottam Mishra has said, and I quote, "If a man hides his name, caste and religion, then bitterness comes in." He was using a Hindu name, although he belonged to a different community. He also had 2 different Aadhaar cards. He was selling bangles which our daughters wear, and that's how the altercation started, end quote. The police registered a case of rioting, assault, robbery, intimidation, and trying to disturb communal harmony, and 3 people were arrested within 24 hours of that incident. Also now, the police have booked the bangle seller who was beaten for concealing his identity when selling bangles in Indore. One complaint was registered by the minor daughter of one of the accused who had been picked up, based on that complaint now, the bangle seller has been booked under IPC sections for assault, criminal force on a woman, sexual harassment, forgery, cheating, criminal intimidation, along with POCSO, which is the Prevention of Crime of a Sexual Nature Against Children, which is non-bailable. In other news, activist Umar Khalid, who was arrested, remember, about a year ago under UAPA because of the Delhi riots case, told the Delhi court on Monday that there are various contradictions in the police's claims against him, describing the case against him as cooked up. According to Live Law, Khalid's lawyer, senior advocate Tridip Pais, told the additional sessions judge that the case against his client was based on video clips run by television channels Republic TV and News 18, which showed truncated, which means edited or shortened versions of the clip. He also, in court, Mr. Pais said that when the TV channels were asked why they didn't run the whole script, they responded saying they used the video clips that were from the Twitter account of Amit Malviya of the BJP. Khalid, along with several other activists, students and politicians, been booked under the stringent anti-terror UAPA, accused of being masterminds in the February 2020 violence that led to 53 people dying and 700 people getting injured in Delhi. An update on the COVID situation in India. India reported 25,467 new cases, 354 deaths, as per the Health Ministry this morning. Active cases are the lowest in 156 days. That's a piece of good news. Kerala reported 24,296 new cases and 173 deaths in the last 24 hours. The Ministry of Health has also announced that you can now book your COVID vaccine shots on WhatsApp. Basically, you text the My Government India Corona Help Desk number of 9013151515. Verify the OTP, and then you can book your preferred location and vaccination type. On to news coming in right now from across the world. New Zealand reported 41 new COVID cases, its highest one-day jump since April last year. Authorities have said the numbers are not rising exponentially. New Zealand's virus-free run since February ended last week following the outbreak of Delta variant of COVID in the country's largest city of Auckland. New Zealand on Monday extended its nationwide lockdown to the 27th of August. According to Reuters, people were evacuated from 2 villages near Athens in Greece yesterday because of wildfires. Remember, we've brought you details of how climate change and global warming are causing wildfires in many parts of the world. There have been no reports of injuries just yet. Over 500 wildfires have been reported in Greece since the beginning of August this year, and has ravaged thousands of hectares of land. Thousands of people have been evacuated and they've lost their homes. Record high heat waves are causing fires in the US, Canada, Russia, Greece, Turkey, Algeria, and Italy. Some regions have reported their highest temperatures recorded in decades. And a piece of positive news before we leave you for the day. According to the BBC, American-born French performer Josephine Baker has been entered into the Paris Pantheon Mausoleum, which means she will become the first black woman to receive this honor. Baker will be inducted into the monument in November this year. The Pantheon is a burial place for celebrated French icons like scientist Marie Curie and writer Victor Hugo. Born in Missouri in 1906, Baker rose to international stardom in 1930s when moving to France to pursue a career in show business. That brings us to the end of the bulletin. Thank you so much for watching and for your constant support to us. It's our pleasure to bring you the news night after night. I'll ask you one quiz question. Remember, the point of the quiz question is to check whether you're paying attention. This is what my dad used to do at the end of the news bulletin in Doordarshan. I'm a little older than I look. So NATO has said that a certain number of people have been evacuated from Afghanistan over the last 10 days. How many people have been evacuated from Afghanistan by NATO forces over the last 10 days? Leave your answer in the comments section. Thank you for watching. Good night.